Another exciting IPL season is upon us. It is time to discuss on ESPNcricinfo Runorder which of the new or returning captains has the toughest task ahead of him. You've got the likes of Rishabh Pant and Shreyas Iyer back from injury. You've got Shubman Gill captaining the Titans because Hardik Pandya has come to return to Mumbai to captain them. And finally, Pat Cummins, as well as an overseas captain, just announced at the expense of Aiden Marcus. So plenty of contenders. Let's ask the crew. Obviously, we're talking about captains here, Tom, so it's not like we can include Justin Langer or Dan Vittori, who are extremely intruding coaches like yourself who like to be captain. But yeah, as far as players go, give me your choice.
You mean captain off the field? I think out of the captains that you mentioned, my personal view is the hardest task is going to be for Pat Cummins, closely followed by Shubman Gill. Pat Cummins purely because historically there's been I suppose a disconnect between the team, management and owners, and I think can Pat Cummins come and just clear the ground to allow the team to play to its absolute capacity. For Shubman Gill, it's the unknown. He may have captained at lower levels, but this is a different story. IPL, following a very successful 2 years for Gujarat Titans, he's stepping up to the plate. After Hardik Pandya had such an impact as the leader, can he follow in those footsteps or can he create his own?
Okay, Pat Cummins' reason for Tom Moody. George?
So I think the toughest challenge for a captain this time is going to be for Shreyas Iyer. He's coming back after missing last season because of an injury. There all these reports right now of him not being, perhaps fully fit. And then he has a team which is not fully settled. They've had Jason Roy withdraw, so now they have a new opening combination. Their bowling combination is not fully settled. A lot depends on the fitness of Andre Russell going into the season, as always. So I think, a combination of team dynamics for KKR as well as his own personal challenges will make the season quite challenging for Shreyas.
Excellent.
Pat Cummins also has a lot on his plate, but I don't know. I think Pat Cummins can do anything at the moment.
All right. Dustin?
Yeah, I also think Shreyas Iyer is going to have a hard time because there's going to be so much spotlight on him because of all this controversy of what his priorities are. You just know that people are going to hammer him if KKR don't do well, let's be honest. Rishabh Pant, he's firstly coming back obviously from a horrific injury and accident. So he's going to have that on his mind. And also, I don't know what's happened with the Delhi project because it looked like 2018 when Ponting came in, they were trying to build this core of strong Indian players. But if you look at what happened last season, they were completely dependent only on their overseas player. Akshar Patel was the only Indian player who seemed to be doing anything for them. I think maybe Pant needs to be the guy who steps in and gets something out of the Indian players because Ponting somehow hasn't been able to get that out of them. While he's good with the Australians and the overseas players, they need maybe an Indian in that dressing room getting the Indian players going.
I have a different view about Pant. As long as he's physically in good shape to compete in the IPL, I just think being here after what he's been through will just free him. I think he's going to love this season.
Yash, before I give mine, you can give yours.
Yeah, so I agree with Pant broadly for the same reasons that Dustin and George pointed out. I'm not so sure as to how free and liberated that DC setup will eventually let him feel, because that feels like a squad with far too many holes for me. I also feel Shubman Gill, not so much in terms of his task as captain alone, but his responsibility in ensuring that Gill, the captain, doesn't start eating into Gill, the batter. Shubman Gill just had his first crazy IPL season where he made 900 runs at a high strike rate. Now he's pushing for a role in the Indian side. Will he be able to sort of evade this trend, which has bothered recent young Indian captains?
Yeah, it's interesting though that Shubman was really under pressure right through this test series as well. Whether it's more hype than ability, but that was an impressive England series that he just had. So there's a lot to like about Shubman Gill, and again, I think he enjoys the benefit of a cushioned year regardless of results. Now, Tom, I've got a couple here I want to throw at you. I'll echo your Pat Cummins point for the simple reason that I think we were still unsure who they'll go with at the back of Markram's second SA20 success. So the one thing you have here is a viable alternative captain, which is always something you look at when you appoint an overseas captain, never easy. Two, does he really have the strength or the squad strength of an Indian contingent that some of the other overseas captains tend to rely on? I just want you to talk about whether you see Cummins here being given the entire season and whether that will happen. And I'm sure Australia will have some plans as well of managing his workload closer to the World Cup.
Yeah, look, to answer your question, I think, yes, the Sunrisers Indian contingent aren't, I suppose, box office names, but they're very good cricketers. You look at Tripathi at the top of the order, you look at Mayank Agarwal at the top of the order. They're international quality players. If they're given the freedom and the ability to play without the pressure of consequences, if Pat Cummins can create that sort of calm, which he has shown as a leader in the Australian setup, and if he can transfer that into the Sunrisers camp, those players of the calibre of the ones that I mentioned, and the Bhuvneshwar Kumars and the Natarajans and these type of players, they'll thrive under that leadership.
One player we've not mentioned here because we expect him leading such a strong squad that nothing can go wrong. But Hardik Pandya will be captaining Rohit Sharma, and that will switch in a couple of months when the Indian team is announced. Do you see this in any way being not as straightforward a team to lead, even though it's a very strong team? He's at home with Mumbai, and it may not be as big a deal as perhaps social media suggests of Rohit Sharma playing under Hardik Pandya, as maybe it is within that team. But can this in any way go wrong for Hardik?
Look, I think he's got a team that'll back up and take away the pressure of inconsistent performances. I think he'll have the support of not only the Indian players but the overseas players, because he's a highly respected cricketer and he's a respected performer as an all-rounder by his colleagues. But as we well know, captaincy or coaching for that matter can be a completely different game once you lose 2 or 3 games. And suddenly, they pick holes out of your leadership, they pick holes out of decisions that you make. And when you're winning, you can make the craziest decisions and, people build them up to being sort of genius strokes. So, Hardik Pandya's, I think, got the credentials, and he's proven that at Gujarat as a leader. He's tactically sound, and I think he'll be supported by all the senior players, both Indian and overseas players.
So, you've heard it here. We've spoken of Pat Cummins, of Hardik Pandya, of Shreyas Iyer, of Shubman Gill, and even the returning Rishabh Pant. So that covers pretty much everyone. This was ESPN Cricket for Runorder. Thank you very much to the same set of people we keep getting, even though we're talking about new captains.